Let's have a session on types of change, thinking about the causes and pressures of change. Now there's 4 types of change we need to look at. The first one is internal change. And internal change is when the root cause of the change comes from inside the business. A couple of examples. So it could be there's a change in the leaders, the leadership or the managers within a business, inside the business, and so therefore it might lead to a new organisational structure, a new organisational culture, and maybe they move towards or away from product-based or matrix structures. The second one is changes from expansion. So the business is growing, it's expanding, and as a consequence it has to change. Maybe it needs to change in terms of it's going to enter new markets. And if it enters new markets, it might need to adapt its organisational structure to have a regional organisational structure, for instance. It might need to adapt its marketing mix for the new markets it enters. It might also lead on to other functional areas. Maybe the HR department needs to consider about training or recruiting new staff within that new market. The next type of change is external change, and that's when the root cause of the change is from outside the business and it causes a change, it causes an impact inside the business, but the root cause of the change is from outside the business. So an example of this could be economic change. Now the change is interest rates are increasing, that's clearly outside the business, an economic change, and that could lead to the business, perhaps their finance department, thinking, well, interest rates are increasing, we must look to reduce our gearing right now because of that change. And because they're looking to reduce their gearing, they might look to use other sources of finance. Perhaps they look to issue shares or use a rights issue as a way to overcome their funding issues that they might have from reducing their gearing ratio because of that change being increasing interest rates. Now, a second type of external change, so a legal change could be Brexit. Brexit's outside of the business's control, but it clearly impacts a business. It will impact the business maybe in terms of the operation department, the ops department. Maybe you have to change your supplier as a consequence of Brexit. Maybe you change your inventory management technique, your stock management technique, being you move from just in time towards just in case to ensure your supply chain is sweet. It might be that you change in terms of your HRM department, your HR department. Maybe you need to now follow very closely employment law trends if they were to change in the future, now that clearly there is a legal change in the UK stance with the EU. So types of change, that's internal and external. Now the next type of change is incremental change. So incremental change is small but frequent changes over a long period of time, and you're doing that to continually adapt to your external environment to avoid strategic drift. Cards up there. Now, incremental change, the opposite of it is step change, and you might use incremental change in order to get less resistance from your stakeholders in order to make your change, as opposed to if you use step change. You'll find details on that all in the card just before. Now, the final type of change is disruptive change, and this is an extreme type of change to products or processes that make those products that irreversibly alters an industry or market. We've seen examples of that over the last 10 years because of the birth of these tech firms. So technological firms has been the driver of this. There's many examples of disruptive change. One could be, for example, the hotel market being affected because of Airbnb changing the way that people will stay in different places if they want to get somewhere to stay overnight. Now, it could be terrestrial telly or cable TV. They've been irreversibly changed, those markets, because of the internet, because of the cloud, because of platforms, and that's led to the birth of new companies such as Netflix, Prime, Disney+. And that's changed viewing habits. It's changed subscription models that we've moved towards, as opposed to the old school advertising way of these businesses making their money, particularly in the case of Channel 4 or in 5, and also ITV for that matter. So examples there of disruptive change. Now, the last thing to think about is managing change. Now, managing change, you need to ensure that you're aware of Lewin's force field analysis as your model to show how you would manage the type of change you're going to make. I hope that helps. See you next session.